So the recent incident at FIFA where a female player was kissed without her consent by her coach has sparked a lot of outrage and discussion. And in your opinion, why are such actions still prevalent in sports, and how do they reflect the broader challenges women face in this arena?
Oh my gosh, what an invitation to have a really, really good conversation. I want to just adjust one thing, which was the player, Jenny Hermoso, was kissed by the president of her federation. So this is like her boss's boss's boss, a very significant power imbalance. Though, frankly, if it was her coach, similarly, a really significant power imbalance. It has absolutely sparked a significant conversation around the world, and it's been thrilling to see how many people have stood up in support of Jenny. And I think there's so many different angles you can take on this, but I might say that one of the most important, I believe, is to once again shine a spotlight on the conditions that women face in sport as women, simply because they are women trying to exist within what is still a very patriarchal, male-dominated space where women have, for many years in many different spaces, been objectified and been subjected to sexual harassment, sexual assault, and other forms of maltreatment. This one being so visible
Right.
has really sparked such significant outcry. But I would say it's very fair to say, based on the research and based on other stories that we hear, that this is a consistent experience for many people, many women in particular, across sport.
So, what systemic changes need to be implemented then within sports organizations globally and here to ensure that women are treated with the same respect and dignity as their male counterparts?
Yes. Well, the good news is that there's so much that we can do. And I would say it's important also to see this in its context too, which points to many of those challenges, but also how the solutions are already all connected. This was, so we're talking about Spain, the Spanish national team. A year before the World Cup, 15 national team players refused to play for the team, refused to be called up because of the conditions that the coach was creating. So we've got the president of the federation. Now we've got the coach that we're talking about. So clearly there were things going on in that environment that were really not making women feel safe and supported. And now the top professional league in Spain, Liga F, the players are on strike for equity of pay and other conditions. And Spain, frankly, isn't alone. I would say that as incredible as this Women's World Cup was in showcasing the masterful play of the players across so many countries, real like Cinderella stories, teams making it to the subsequent rounds that had never made it there. So much great content and excitement. It was certainly marked by lots of teams in disputes with their federations, even as FIFA was increasing the pay, still far shy of what the men receive and so on. So there's this real paradox, I would say, in women's sport where it's like, wow, there's so much to celebrate. There's so many great things going on. There is progress. There is change. The women are showing up and just delivering this incredible experience for the fans and the sponsors. And yet, there's still so much work to do. So where do we start? The good news is that there are a lot of different entry points, which means that really anyone in the sports system has an ability to have a positive influence on the experiences and opportunities of girls and women. We at Canadian Women in Sport really put the onus on the organizations themselves. They have been given the social license to lead, set policies, and ultimately design and deliver the sport that people participate in. It is their responsibility to make sure that that is done in a way that is safe and welcoming and inclusive and equitable. And that really starts at the top. So how do we start to tackle this misogyny and inequity and other aspects, we need diverse leadership teams. We need women, and not just white women, but women of every color, every background, non-binary individuals, just very diverse leadership teams, because with that, you get far less groupthink, less going along to get along, more willingness to challenge the status quo, to question, okay, I hear that we've always done things that way, but should we not be thinking about doing things differently? What about the perspective of this audience that we are trying to engage and serve, or that we are serving and have a duty of care for? They manage risk better, and diverse teams, boards and leadership teams produce better results. And so when you think about the role of the boards in setting policy, which controls access and all other sorts of things within the sport, they control the senior hires, they control the strategy and where investment goes. It's so critical that we do have women at the table. So I think that that's a great place to start.
I mean, that really applies to just about everything. I mean, I'm listening to you thinking, yeah, that would just work pretty much anywhere, in policing, in any, in the healthcare system. That approach would work across the board. It seems so simple, and yet we're still struggling for this.
Absolutely. And it creates those checks and balances on behavior, right? We see less of the extremes, whether it's all women or all men, right? You see these extremes of behavior that show up. And, I'm talking about boards and leadership teams, but this is coaching teams. This is grassroots, like wherever it shows up. This is a relevant and good practice, and I think can really set the stage then for other change to happen, because as the policies then get revisited through the lens of gender equity and other forms of diversity, then that sets the stage for the practice to change, and so on and so forth. And clearly, there is some need for that. We're seeing that in Canada with the government mandating a new governance code. I think, there's a lot still to be known about that and to understand how that will impact the sports system. But we were very pleased to see gender balance being mandated on boards as part of that, because we believe so strongly in the broad influence that can have.
And not to get too lost in the weeds, but there's a lot of that came out because of what happened with Hockey Canada last year, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Canada is not immune in this respect. We are absolutely in the midst of a significant reckoning when it comes to unsafe sport. And governance, I think, very strategically has been brought into that conversation because it has so much to do with it. And gender equity is a thread that runs through all of these things, both as a lens that we need to put on the problems that we're experiencing, because women often experience them differently than men do, or uniquely. But also gender equity can be part of the solution as well. And the bottom line is that sport is it's a good that everyone in our society should enjoy. And the benefits of that are, I think, especially profound for people that have been excluded, not only from sport, but from other aspects of our society. And ensuring that women and girls have access to sport as participants and leaders is vital to us breaking down barriers for women all across society. But also, women are equally essential for sport. And
exactly.
So, as we like to say, it's not a woman problem, it's a sport problem.
Alison, how can male allies in sports play a pivotal role in creating a more respectful and inclusive environment for women?
Oh, men are absolutely essential to this process. They are critical partners. And I must say, we are fortunate to have so many here in Canada who have really paid attention and are really doing their most to support. And I would say, absolutely, it starts with listening. Starts with hearing the women, listening to what they have to say and taking it seriously, believing them when they tell you about their experience and what it is that they need to participate fully and freely and benefit fully as well. We are still very much in a world broadly and in a support system where men, and I'm generalizing here, hold a lot of power and a lot of privilege. And so I think one of the best things that men can do is to think about how they use that power and that privilege to create spaces for women, to create opportunities for women, to bring women into the conversation, to ensure that they have a voice and they have a vote. And so that isn't always about giving up your power. It's not about becoming less powerful, but it's inviting other people in and understanding that that is actually going to make everything better, not just better for women.
And how important is education and awareness in changing attitudes and behaviors? And how early does that start?
So the short answer is that it's critical. You know, we're living in a world where we've all been conditioned to see the world in a certain way, and it's natural that we hold our own experience closest, right? That's the lens that forms our view. And so through education, which can take many forms. I mean, it can take e-modules, reading books, listening to podcasts, but also talking to people and hearing about their experience, and their ideas. It can give us other lenses to put on our thoughts, to put on our decisions, and that can lead to different outcomes. How early does it start? As early as possible. And so one of the really cool things is that by having more women in those visible, accessible leadership roles, like coaches for young boys, young girls, that shapes their view of women differently. And so there are opportunities to do that really, like, okay, we're learning now, like we're going to have an intentional conversation. And then there are things that we can just put in front of the kids. And by just experiencing them, they will form their worldview differently than past generations have had the opportunity to.
Okay, so let's just wrap this up with a pretty little bow for everybody. How can organizations, athletes, and fans collaborate more effectively to ensure that sports remain a safe and empowering space for everyone, irrespective of gender?
Well, the simple answer is that everyone has a role to play. So everyone can feel empowered to do something to make things better for themselves, those around them, future generations. The longer answer, which I'll still try to keep short, is that there's so many different, I think it starts with looking at your sphere of influence, which could be, I can impact one person positively, or I can impact a team, or I can impact the sport for an entire country. And really to look at who are the people that share this perspective with me, because it can be quite lonely at times to stand up for things and to push for things to be done differently than it's been done before. But there's no shortage of opportunities. And in fact, we love giving people things that they can do. And so if people come to our website at womenandsport.ca, you'll find lots of resources, lots of best practices, lots of ideas of things that you can do. But a simple thing that people can do today is when they see something that they think is wrong, whether it's a comment to someone or an action that's been taken or a policy, to speak up and to make their voice heard and to let people know that this isn't how we should be doing things anymore and we need to make a change. And that can spark a really great conversation. Easier done when you're doing it with others, but the courage to stand up, especially when you're seeing something being done to someone around you, is something that I think we can all practice more in our lives.
Yeah, and it matters. And, you know, as we were speaking during the commercial break there, I was saying to you, it was breaking my heart to hear about these 15 girls who chose not to go on and play soccer because they had to make a choice between pursuing their passion or keeping themselves safe. And that was just a terrible decision to have to be put into. So I thank you for joining me, for, sharing your thoughts on this subject. And of course, people can find out more at Canadian Women in Sport.
Thanks so much, Candace. It's always great to have a conversation with you.